All right, welcome everybody to the eighth episode of Doug's Dugout. And in the house, once again, we've got Doug Blunt. He is the Apple guru of gurus. He's the guru of the MLB, and he's a guru of e-biking. Doug, welcome back.
Glad to be back. How trying to keep cool, Danny? How about you?
I'm trying to keep cool. In fact, hopefully after this show, I'm going to go and try to get in the pool, but I've got to clean it because I've got some green little stuff trying to grow back again.
Well, the green monster out here is looking pretty good.
Yeah.
I went for a little swim last night for about an hour, and it was very nice. It
Yeah.
was not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I haven't gotten in about a week or so, maybe about a week and a half, and so I'm hoping to get in later on today, but I've got a lot of vacuuming to do. There's a lot of leaves that drop in there, and I think the roly
yeah,
polies are back, so I've got to sweep them out of the water. But it's a lot of work, no doubt about that.
definitely a lot of work. Is the spa a little bit easier to take care of?
The what?
The spa you have. You have a spa next
Yes, I
door.
do. I do, but no, the problem is that the birds and pigeons land on the spa, and what they do is they use it as a bird bath and a place to
Oh,
drop
okay.
their food. For whatever reason,
Oh,
they've
okay.
got this thing about dipping their food inside the water before eating it, and they're not very successful at keeping it all together. So I've got to constantly clean that thing as well because otherwise it's messy, you know. So,
Yeah, we've got the same problem with the blackbirds. That we have like three steps that walk into the pool, right?
yeah.
And that's where all the birds congregate.
Right. Yeah, because they use it
And
as a
you know the
bird bath.
blackbirds down here. Yeah, you know what the blackbirds down here are huge.
Yeah. They're kind
Yeah,
of like
yeah,
vultures.
yeah. They are.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, Diva got attacked one day few years ago going into a stripe station, and the blackbirds down at the stripes down there uh, on the frontage road
Yeah. Are
down there.
there
There's a okay. She
El
was getting
Mito?
out of the
Yeah.
car and she got attacked. They went for her head
Wow.
because in the evening they all congregate on the power lines down there, right?
Yeah. Wasn't there a
Never been able to.
60s wasn't there a 60s movies by Alfred Hitchcock called The Birds or something?
It was, yeah,
Yeah.
very good movie. Tippy Hedren was in it, and
Yeah.
Rod Taylor, and yeah, the Birds. Yeah, very good
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
righty, Doug. So what's going on in the MLB this week?
Well, right now I've got, as you can see on the game I've got on TV, the Cardinals and the Colorado Rockies are battling out for last place. Okay, and the score is 1-0.
Oh my
There was
gosh.
a lot of, the trading deadline came and gone, and there were some big trades that the Cardinals made and some other teams made. Mainly the big trade for the Cardinals was they traded away probably our best pitcher, a guy named Jack Flaherty,
Wow.
good young pitcher. Yeah, they traded him to Cronson's team.
Wow. The Ravens,
Yeah,
not the
and
Ravens, the Orioles, excuse
the
me.
Orioles, and he's already won a game for him. Pitched good,
Wow.
and yeah, so Flaherty's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. So they rented a ball player for the rest of the season. They seem to think they got a pretty good shot, which I think they do.
Wow.
Okay,
Wow.
and then and they
So
may be able to sign Flaherty
why
too.
do you think why do you think they traded Flaherty?
I think what it was that um, they probably couldn't. They knew they couldn't sign him.
Yeah.
He was probably going to be asking for too much money.
Yeah.
But I don't understand the situation unless he just wanted to. The Cardinals and him wanted to make a break because Wainwright is making 17 million this year, and he's going to be gone. He's retiring.
Wow.
So that right there frees up 17 million on the contract on the on the salary,
Yeah.
and I think maybe Flattery thinks he's going to get more than that, but 17 to 20 million for a pitcher of his caliber is pretty. That's about right.
Yeah. Wow.
And,
Wow.
and then there was a rumor he wanted to go to the West Coast because that's where he's from. He ended up going to the East Coast, but he's only got 2 months in Baltimore, so we'll
Yeah.
see what Baltimore does. They probably won't sign him, but he might get to the World Series.
Now, who did he want to go on the West Coast to?
The Los Angeles area. That's where he's from.
Ah. So you
He
think he
he
was
grew up
looking to
around
play the
Los Angeles.
Dodgers then?
Yeah, probably the Dodgers or the Angels.
Wow.
Okay,
Wow.
yeah, and then the other trade is we traded our closer, a young kid named Jordan Hicks that we drafted. Well, Flaherty we drafted a couple years ago, out of college, and then Jordan Hicks we drafted him too, and we shipped his up to Toronto
Yeah.
to help them out because they lost their closer, and so he's going to be a free agent too. And then there's a shortstop that was thought there was going to be a pretty good shortstop, and he hit 30 homers 2 years ago, but last year he barely hit the Mendoza line at like he only hit like 195 or something, and he was having somewhat of a resurgence this year. Paul DeYoung,
Mm-hmm.
I think he's got like 14, 15 homers and hitting about 240. He plays pretty good defense, but I guess maybe Cardinals have a they knew they couldn't sign him, and he was making his option was up for 11 million. So I think the Cardinals decide, well, let's we're not going to pick up his option, so let's trade him.
Wow.
And so we got a bunch of young pitchers,
Yeah.
and then we traded um, another couple pitchers down to um, the Texas Rangers.
Ah.
Yeah, they were the pitchers was one of them was a guy named Stratton.
Mm-hmm.
Stratton, journeyman reliever. He pitched good for the Cardinals. He was a middle inning type of guy, but he would pitch. He pitched. He had basically an iron arm. He could pitch him just about every day. An inning or two, and he pitched okay. But he was going to be a free agent too.
Wow.
So they got rid of him. So and then that's what the Cardinals did, and then Texas they picked up you know the guy from the Mets. Okay, they picked him up and considered one of the best pitchers in baseball. So he's joined them down in Texas, and then Verlander was Scherzer that went to Texas, and then Verlander he went back to Houston.
Mm-hmm.
He pitched him to the World Series last year, and then he signed as a free agent for the Mets, and on a 1 year deal, I think it was. And so the Mets trade him down to Houston. So now he gets to come home and see if he can get Houston to the playoffs too.
Wow. Wow. Well, that's
There
pretty
was some
cool.
other trades around. There were some other trades around,
Yeah.
but that's probably the most notable ones.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and flip over to the scoreboard and give me one
You
second
know, we,
here.
Cardinals this week we played um, Minnesota, and the games, nobody really cares now because the Cardinals have given up the season,
Yeah.
and Minnesota came in. I mean, they're in first place, and we're going to go see them at the end of August in Minnesota.
Yeah.
But the games were lackluster.
Yeah.
Minnesota. What I saw in Minnesota, I wasn't too impressed.
Wow.
Okay,
Now,
and
one of the other local podcasters is a Cubs fan, and I think the Cubs were on fire this past week, weren't they?
they are. They've been on fire the whole month of July, in the first week of August. You
Yeah.
know, they was going to trade away Corey Seager. Everybody thought he was going to be gone because he was a free agent,
Yeah.
but they decided to keep him.
Wow.
And I think they even made an addition to their club.
Wow.
But I think they cooled off a little bit now. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and flip over to the scoreboard and we can go through some of the standings here. Got our trusty iPad back, fully charged this
Okay.
time. All righty. Well, the American League East, you've got Baltimore up on top, 69 wins and
How about
42
that?
losses.
How about that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Baltimore on top.
Yeah.
They're rolling.
They're rolling.
Cronson's going to be happy.
Yeah.
Cronson's going to be happy.
Croston should be really happy. And then you've
Yep,
got,
they got a good pitcher. I like Jack Flaherty. He came up through the Cardinal farm system. He had some injury problems about 2 years ago. He was the one that thought he was Babe Ruth, and he was at the plate, and he got an oblique strain, and he was just out most of the season with that. Now, since there's a DH on both leagues, that we don't have to worry about that anymore.
yeah.
And I thought he was going to be probably the next Adam Wainwright or Chris Carpenter or something like that, but I guess the Cardinals decided to part ways with him. They
Wow.
could sign him in the offseason. I mean, they could sign him,
Yeah.
but you know, I don't know if they will or not.
Yeah.
There's something going on in St. Louis
Yeah.
that they're letting, I think they've never come out and say it, but I think they got a money crunch there because they're tied up with Bally Sports, the one that the cable network across the nation.
Right.
Okay, and they filed bankruptcy. Bally Sports did
Oh,
a
wow.
couple months ago, and and I think that I think uh, the family that owns the Cardinals is the DeWitt company, is the
Mm-hmm.
DeWitt family,
Okay.
and they're known for Arby's. They own a lot of Arby's restaurants and stuff.
Ah, okay.
And I think I think they had a big investment in Bally Sports.
Wow.
But as we all know, the cable sports, well, all of cable news, our sports, our TV is just it's crashed and burned.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Like they're just been eaten alive by streaming, you know?
yeah. As a matter of fact, we talked last week about there's already um, two teams in MLB that have dumped their cable networks altogether and they're doing streaming only through the
Wow.
MLB app.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
It makes sense. Even for them, it makes a lot of sense, you know?
yeah, it
Yeah.
does.
Yeah. Then you've got
So we'll get Tampa
Tampa,
Bay.
Tampa Bay is second
Yeah,
there.
yep.
Yeah. 67 wins and
Yeah.
46 losses.
What we at 3.5 games out?
Yeah. Yeah. About three, maybe two. Yeah.
About
Three.
about 3 games out.
Yeah.
That's nothing at this time of year. Not a big deal, but we'll see what happens tomorrow night. The Cardinals move on to Tampa Bay next week, so
Yeah.
we'll see how they play Tampa Bay. I think they're slipping a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you've got
Uh,
Toronto. You got Toronto on third there.
yeah. Toronto's. They're 7.5. It's going to be tough for Toronto, but they've really got a good chance of making a wild card with that record, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you've got the Yankees and Boston at the bottom of that league.
Yeah. Well, who would ever think that everybody kind of expected the Boston to have a bad year, and they played pretty good for the first part of the year, but you know, everybody thought the Yankees were going to win, but Aaron Judge hasn't been out most of the season, so
Yeah.
they're having a bad year. So yeah,
Yeah. Then in the American League Central, you got Minnesota up on top. 58 wins and 54 losses.
yeah, they were in St. Louis this past week, and like I alluded to a while ago, we're going to go see them August the 28th in Minnesota. They're going
Yeah.
to be, by the way, they're going to be playing Cleveland that day too.
Ah.
So, and so, um, not too impressed with Minnesota.
Yeah.
Um, most of their hitters are mediocre. Carlos Correa's having a mediocre year, and I don't think Buxton's even playing. At least I didn't hear his name that week. So, yeah, I don't know. Minnesota, they may win the division because it's a weak division, but
Right.
I don't know if they're going to stay there. Cleveland probably don't have enough pitching to get through.
Yeah. Well, one of the
Detroit,
things, yeah, one of the things I wanted to mention is, you've got Cleveland named the Guardians, and on the NFL side, believe it or not, there's a big petition going to actually change the name of the Washington back to the from the Commanders back to the Redskins, and it's gaining
I hope it
steam.
happens. I
It's
hope it
gaining
happens.
steam.
Years ago there was. I'll never forget this. There was the company we used to work for.
Uh-huh.
When there was a quality spill somewhere, okay, they'd get a hold of it was my job to get a hold of the supplier. And then what they usually do, they would send a sorting company down, either locally or they would send somebody down here to supervise the sorting of the
Right.
product, right?
Right.
And there was a sorting company that we worked with, and they were out of New York, Buffalo, New York.
Uh-huh.
And the guy was a big the guy I worked with was a big Washington Redskins fan, and he had a tattoo on his elbow, all over his body, about being a Washington Redskin fan.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, so if that guy's still around,
Yeah.
I mean, what's he doing? Did he get all his tattoos removed or what? I don't know.
I don't know, but I'm telling you, it's gaining steam to revert some of
Oh,
these team
I'm
names back.
entitled. I think it should be. I think it should be the Redskins.
Yeah, I think people just went too crazy. This woke culture just went completely berserk. You know.
Yeah, they went nuts on this woke culture. And this, the same thing with the Cleveland Indians. It'd always be the Cleveland Indians to me.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. All right. Well, you've got Detroit in third place there.
Yeah, they're going to be fading fast. I mean, it's going to be a battle between the White Sox and Detroit for that place. Kansas City's going to, they're what? Well, they won a few games. They're up to 36 games now.
Yeah.
Kansas City's won.
Yeah.
But a little note about Chicago White Sox: there was a big fight on the field last
Oh.
night.
Yeah. What happened?
Yeah, somebody slid into second base, and the shortstop for the White Sox, a pretty good ball player. He was having a bad year anyway. He's like a superstar, but he's hitting like 220 or 210 this year. And they got in a big fight, and the shortstop for Tim Henderson for the White Sox, he held his. They started shoving, and he just held his arms up like that.
Uh huh.
And the other player on the other team just co-cocked him, knocked him right down on the ground.
Wow.
Henderson down. It
Wow.
was all over. It was all over Twitter last night.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
pretty
So
cool. And
yeah,
then of course we've got the American League West, and of course Texas is on top, 65 wins, 46 losses.
Texas driving. They added Scherzer, which was a big deal.
Yeah.
And if he can pitch, he didn't have a good year in New York, but he was starting to come around those last month or 6 weeks. And if he can give him a couple games down here, if he can win maybe 3 or 4 games for him this year, I think he's gonna and see what they do in the playoffs. So Texas is going to go for the whole. Is going to go for the World Series. I think.
Yeah. Then you've got Houston right behind them.
Right behind him. Speaking about old teams, one time Houston was called the Colt 45s,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
and they
that was the
changed that. Yeah, they changed that right after the Kennedy assassination because there was a big cry for gun control.
uh-huh.
and
Oh
so they
wow.
changed it over to the Astros. Yeah,
Wow, I
yeah,
didn't realize that there was that it went that far back, the whole gun control debate.
yeah. Well, there was a big deal after and
Yeah.
when Kennedy got assassinated, Frank Sinatra made a movie called The Manchurian Candidate.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and that was about ready to get released, and then Kennedy got assassinated. And I don't know if you ever seen The Manchurian Candidate, but the presidential candidate gets assassinated in it.
Oh wow. Wow.
By Lawrence Harvey, and Frank Sinatra saves the day. But Sinatra, and when Kennedy got assassinated, well, Sinatra was a executive producer in the movie, and he told him to put it on the shelf and
Wow.
don't release it. And it was on the shelf for years.
Wow. Did they
Yeah, they
release
didn't
it
release it.
before Bobby Kennedy got shot or afterwards, or did they ever release it?
I No, I think they released it after Bobby Kennedy got shot.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So and it was back then there was a big gun control deal. I mean the weapon that Oswald allegedly shot Kennedy with, that was a mail order rifle. You know,
Yeah.
he got Italian, probably the worst rifle ever made.
Yeah.
You know, the Italian one, and for a sharpshooter, and he got it for like $20 or something through mail order. That stopped. They stopped the mail order business,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Yeah, I know. My
Yeah,
brother. My brother is one of those what do you call it? Licensed federal. Basically, you can buy guns off of the internet, but you're not going to get them at home. You have to go through some licensed federal person,
yeah,
and he's one of those
yeah.
guys. So when somebody
He's like a
buys
broker or something, huh?
like a broker, yeah. So when somebody
Yeah,
buys a gun, they have to. It gets delivered to him, and then all the background checks occur and everything. So it's kind of interesting the way it works now. You know.
yeah. There was actually, at that time when Kennedy got assassinated, there was even some TV shows that they when they it was all fictional, of course, but they put that in there about mail order guns
Right.
because there's no TV show called The Fugitive,
Yeah.
and there's an episode in there where Kurt Russell, when he's like 8 or 9 years old, he's in it, and the kid Bobby Diamond, the kid from Fury,
Yeah.
Fury,
Yeah.
the story of a horse and the boy who loves him.
Yeah.
Okay, and he was like a teenager. He was like 12 or 13 then or something. And there's a story is that they ordered a gun, a rifle through the mail, and they picked it up at the post office. They got Richard Kimball, the fugitive, to pick up the rifle at the post office.
At the post office.
Okay,
Wow.
and he didn't know what he picked up, but they needed an adult to pick it up,
Yeah.
and so the story went on to that. But there was a couple other TV shows, but Kurt Russell, how about that, huh?
Yeah.
8 or 9 years old.
I'm
Yeah,
surprised. I'm surprised you couldn't buy weapons back in those days via Sears Wish Book.
like houses, right? Like
Yeah. All
houses,
right.
huh?
Yeah.
Where I come from, in Carlinville, Illinois, there's a whole section of town, and it's called Standard Edition, and
Uh-huh.
that's where those were houses.
Wow.
You'd buy a house for $2,000 or so, and they would bring them in on trains, boxcars, and then you would go pick the thing up in your buggy, and then you put them together.
Wow. Isn't that
That
incredible?
was Yeah. And I just finished a TV series called Boardwalk, and one of the characters in the series had bought a Sears house too, and he
Wow.
put it together. And his wife was always complaining because the doors didn't shut, and the doors were put in backwards, and the windows didn't do all that. And he was,
Wow.
his wife was always complaining to him.
Wow. Well, then, of course,
But
it looks like the Angels dropped into fourth. I thought they were a third last week. Seattle's creeped up.
looked like they got behind here. They're still trying to, they didn't trade Otani, and they're trying to, maybe they think they still got a chance for a wild card,
Yeah. Then,
but
of
who
course, you
knows?
Then you got Oakland at the bottom there.
Good old Oakland. Yep. What can we say?
You know. Then on the National League, you've got Atlanta, 70 wins and 38 losses.
Yeah, pulling away from it, you can pretty much write Atlanta in to win that division now. I think 11
Yeah,
games to go. See, 11 games, 11 and a half. Yeah, 11. Philadelphia, they're had some injury problems the first year, but they're coming back.
yeah.
Miami's slipping a little bit. Um,
The Mets are slipping quite a bit.
Big time.
And then the Nationals.
Yeah, yeah.
The
Now let me tell you a
Nationals.
little quick story about the Mets. Okay,
Yeah,
as you well know, I'm a big Bill O'Reilly fan. Okay,
yeah,
and he does these. He's on some radio shows,
yeah,
right? Every once in a while as a guest for like 15 minutes or 10 minutes. And I heard you go to his website and you can listen to the conversation between, the radio host and Bill O'Reilly. Well, he was doing, his views on politics, right? Well, Bill O'Reilly, if you didn't know, has got a Corky, okay? And, Bill just loves his dog, right?
yeah.
Well, during the interview, Bill was on his little rant about the politics situation in this country, and somebody knocked on the door. It must be a UPS guy or something. And Corky, his Corky, it started started barking.
Yeah,
You know how they are; those little dogs do.
right.
And O'Reilly he says, yeah, let me calm my dog down here. I think he's barking because the mere mention the New York Mets, he gets upset.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Wow. Wow.
yeah.
And then, of
Holly the
course,
terror. The dog's
yeah.
name's Holly. Holly the terror dog.
Isn't Corky's or were the ones that also Queen Elizabeth had? Isn't
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
She had five of them,
She's
by
always
the way.
she was always running around. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so surprised how they kept the house clean with five dogs. I got three and I'm constantly chasing after them,
Well, you got a little servants around there, and you got to put the your taxpayer dollars at work.
I mean, I've always wondered, when a president moves in, and they bring their pets, how they're handled. I mean, I know my pets are bad sometimes, but maybe that's the reason why Trump didn't have any pets at all.
Yeah, Trump. No, Trump wants all the attention, man. He didn't want any attention to give to a pet.
That's true.
And then you got old Joe. Old Joe was Commander. His dog, his name's Commander, right?
Yeah,
And the dog keeps on biting Secret Service agents.
yeah, yeah. I'm just
Yeah.
wondering how they prevent the dogs from chewing on furniture. Some of that furniture is pretty vintage. Imagine the dog nipping at the Resolute desk or something.
Yeah, I do know they had to send Commander a couple times to obedience school because
Yeah,
but he's got, old Joe's probably got people do that for him
I guess so.
if he's awake. If he's awake,
So in the National
but
League, huh?
he's never in the White House. He's always either at his beach house or his other residence there in Delaware, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm
Or
wondering
Camp
if
David. So
I wonder if he still drives the Amtrak train down to Delaware.
I think he flew it the other day.
Hmm.
He was working in the coal mine. After
Yeah.
he drove a semi truck to the coal mine, he was down the coal mine. And when he got off work at the coal mine, then he hit a train, got on there.
Wow. Wow. I
Probably ran
wonder.
into what was that character he always ran into when he was a kid? Um, with the chains. He said he beat him up.
I don't remember.
You know, I forget. I forget the name. It'll come to me here pretty soon. Yeah, yeah,
And then in
yeah.
the National
Old
League
Joe.
Central, the old Joe. And then in the National
Old
League
Joe.
Central, you've got Milwaukee. Milwaukee's got 60 wins and 52 losses.
Cincinnati's got a good chance of hitting them.
Yeah.
Um, they don't. I was surprised that the Chicago Cubs and Cincinnati's done for this year, so they don't play each other in September.
Oh
So it looks
wow.
like to me it's going to be a lot of between Cincinnati and Milwaukee, and maybe St. Louis
Yeah.
as a spoiler. It's going to be 1.5 games, not too bad.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, I don't think Milwaukee's got enough offense, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. What about Pittsburgh?
Pittsburgh and St. Louis is battling out, boy. You know, Pittsburgh, they're going to start playing their younger ball players,
Yeah.
that they haven't already. And, the same thing with St. Louis. We've talked about the Cardinals already, but you're seeing some big switches in St. Louis already. We've got, Donovan went out for the season for for surgery on his shoulder, I think. He won't be back till next year. And then we got all these kids coming up from Memphis. I look
Mm-hmm.
for Mason Wynn to come up here pretty soon
Yeah.
after the season's over with for Memphis. So, um, they're just rounding at the bottom. So,
Yeah.
in that division, it's going to be between Cincinnati and Milwaukee.
Yeah. And then in the National League West, you've got the Dodgers, obviously on top, 63 wins, 46 losses, followed by
Mm-hmm.
San Francisco. You know.
Yep. I picked Dodgers to win it, and they've been in pretty much first place the whole year.
Yeah.
Arizona, they were up there at the top a couple weeks ago. They ran out of gas.
Yeah.
They picked up a pitcher, I think, that was going to help them out. I don't know if it is, maybe too late, but I think they're sliding fast. San Francisco, they're a surprise team, probably the surprise team in baseball right now.
Right. And of course, you've got San Diego and Colorado at the bottom of the league there.
Yeah, Colorado, they're up on the screen right now.
Yeah.
Um, Colorado's not going to do, you know, they're not going to do anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Matter of fact, I don't think I haven't heard Charlie Blackman's even playing for him now. He may be, he's an older player, so they may sit him down the rest of the year. I don't know. Or he
Yeah.
might be hurt. He's
Yeah.
the guy with all the hair.
Right.
He looks like Wolfman Jack.
Yeah.
And, he still drives the same car as he drove in college. He's like
Wow.
35 years old now. Yeah. And,
Wow.
he negotiates his own contract.
Wow.
He doesn't have agents or anything like that. He negotiates his own contract.
Wow. It's not like he can't
Yeah.
afford a brand new car. I guess he just doesn't want one.
He lives very frugal.
Wow.
And, he's always checking his stock market and stuff like that. So,
Wow.
yeah. But he's a good ball player. Well, he's past his prime now, but when he was in his prime, he was a good ball player.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
All righty. Anything else, Doug, that we've got going on?
I'm trying to think of some stuff. Is that okay? Um, we're I'm looking for some tickets to the Minnesota game.
Yeah.
Around the August 20. Maybe August 27th, or it might be August 28th.
Yeah.
27th is Kids Day at Target Field, Minnesota. So I'll take my grandson. So I'm looking forward to taking my grandson to the game in Minnesota.
Yeah.
It's going to be a family affair. We're going to get 5 tickets. It'll be Taylor and her husband and Jace, and then Diva and me.
Yeah.
And we're trying to get some tickets that's not in the nosebleed section. But even in Minnesota,
Yeah.
the tickets aren't that bad. You can get decent tickets there. For the ones I looked at last night was like $37 a
Well, that's
piece.
not bad. Oh.
That's not bad. Yeah, MLB still has, just to say something to the listeners, if you want some good family entertainment and you want to do something with the family and create some memories, that's a big deal. Got to create memories, right?
Yeah.
And um, take them to a major league ball game. It's really reasonable. The prices are not out of hand.
Yeah.
Not like football or hockey or basketball. And the games are much faster now.
Yeah.
Back in the day, last year, it took forever for the pitcher to
Right.
throw the ball, and then the batter would get up there and he'd step out of the batter's box and pick his
Yeah.
nose and everything else. Can't do that now. You got to throw that sucker in 20 seconds.
Right.
Okay, and the mound visits have been, so it's a faster game now.
Yeah.
Okay, so they've shaved about a half hour off the game,
Yeah.
and there's always a promotion going on to a game.
Yeah.
$2 hot dogs or dollar beer or some kind of event like on Kids Day in Minnesota. The kids get to run the field,
Yeah.
you know, and stuff like that. So it's good, clean entertainment. If you don't want to do that, down here in South Texas, go to Corpus Christi. Go
Yeah.
to Corpus Christi, a Whataburger Field there.
Yeah.
Um, been there many times.
Yeah.
Very reasonable there.
Yeah.
You can get a good ticket for like $5, $10, something like that.
That is true. The ticket prices are very reasonable on the MLB. I was checking out tickets for football for a Dallas Cowboy game, and oh my gosh, they're out of this
How much
world.
are they, Danny, on a Dallas Cowboy game?
Well, they were up there, and what I can tell you is that, and it was in a section that was really bad. They're not available a whole lot, so I couldn't really pinpoint, all the pricing, but it's still, it was still inconvenient because of where you were on the field. Obviously, if you've got better seating, you pay more of a price. So, but no, I mean, I remember lots of times, Doug, when you talked about the timing of the game. I mean, when the last time that I attended a baseball game was back in, when I was in college, and I attended an
Mm-hmm.
Astros game at the Astrodome. And by golly, by the seventh or eighth inning, we were already headed down because, all we could afford were the nosebleed sections up at the Astrodome. And
Yeah,
if you didn't
yeah.
leave between the seventh or eighth inning, you were going to be in a bind just trying to get out of the Astrodome, finding your vehicle, and then dealing with all the traffic down Kirby, as you head down to 610. So taking 610 was a nightmare. So I remember, so a lot of times we left, in the seventh or eighth inning, just let's get the heck out of here because we're not going to make it out. So
I think, what we did when we went to St. Louis, see, is that, not last year, but the year before, we took an Uber.
yeah.
We had to stay at a hotel. And so the whole trip, we didn't even rent a car. What we
Wow.
did is that we took an Uber from the airport to the hotel. And then when we got ready to go to the game, we took an Uber from the hotel to the stadium.
Yeah.
Okay. And we walked around there. All your restaurants and all that kind of stuff is down there in Ballpark Village and stuff. And then when we saw the game, and then we waited till after the game,
Yeah.
and we waited like 45 minutes after the game. And then we called an Uber because we looked on the app and I noticed that the prices go down by half if you wait just a half hour.
Wow.
Yeah. And so we didn't have to deal with any parking. We didn't have to deal with a car. We didn't have to worry about any, car getting stolen or accidents or anything like that. We just took an Uber. So I think the Uber is probably the best thing to it. And it
Yeah.
was like, I think it was like $25
Yeah.
from the hotel to the stadium,
Yeah.
And since we stayed after the game, okay, we stayed out where the players come out, and a half hour, 45 minutes the players start coming out. So we got to see some players and talk to them a little bit. Colton Wong
Wow.
and ex Cardinal and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So and we were in no hurry. I
Yeah.
mean, we were in no hurry,
Yeah.
So that was the best choice. So I think the Uber is the way to go. Now with Taylor up in Minnesota, she only lives 30 minutes away.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Okay, so from Target Field,
Yeah.
and she's been down in that area quite a bit because her job takes her down there,
Yeah.
and so she kind of knows the way around. So
Yeah.
it'd be all right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that's cool.
yeah,
Yeah, that's cool.
yeah.
All
And
righty.
it's going to be on a Monday. It's going to be on a Monday night probably, and attendance is down quite a bit on Monday nights because everybody's going back to work, and
Right. You may
and
not have as
that's a
big.
work night.
Yeah, you may not have that many big crowds to deal with, so that's a good
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So so it's okay. And
So
then,
do you guys
but
pick
it's
up any during these games? Do you guys do any concession food or not?
yeah. I always like the hot dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, the hot dogs at Bush Stadium are just the best hot dogs I've ever had.
Yeah.
Even now, we've tried to duplicate that, and we've never been able to duplicate that.
Wow.
The ones in Corpus Christi at Whataburger Field,
Uh-huh.
they're okay.
Yeah.
They're okay, but they're but not as the one in St. Louis. I don't know which. I don't know if they're Nathan's. I think they're Nathan's, but
Right.
it's a different type of Nathan than you buy at the regular grocery store.
Well, let me tell you
Okay.
what I like. I like the hot dogs from Sam's, at their little concession thing, you know. But they don't
Okay.
sell those. They don't sell those at Sam's. You can't buy them as a
Well,
customer.
you remember back in the day they used to have Home Depots used to have these little hot dog stands in front of them. Remember that?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah.
We lived in Michigan at a time. We lived in Grand Rapids around 2000, and there was a Vietnam vet that had at least he said he was. He had a little hot dog stand in front of Home Depot,
Yeah.
and then eventually the city came in and said, "Oh, you got to have a sink and all that kind of stuff." And
Yeah.
eventually, I guess they shut him down.
Yeah.
And then but we had them in California when I lived out in California,
Yeah.
and I don't know if they had any in Brownsville or not.
No.
But
Well,
then
one
I
thing.
guess then Home Depot chased them all away.
Yeah. Well, one thing. I like Nathan's. I like Nathan's, but they're up there. At least to try to get them. They're up there. But I would really love to get Sam's to put out their hot dogs that they sell at their little concessions, but they don't sell them. I've
Yeah.
already chased and inquired over it, but definitely the concessions. There's something about the concession thing, at a ball game that you just can't pass up.
Well, when I was a kid, I mean, I remember back that, I always tell stories about the old Sportsman's Park, and
Yeah,
even in Bush Stadium too, is that, you just had hot dogs, some peanuts, and cold beer here.
yeah,
Cold beer here. Remember that? It'd be a guy, he'd have about a half a dozen Budweisers in his hands. He was
yeah.
selling, cold beer here.
And they probably
And
didn't. They probably didn't card anyone.
No, not back in those days. And that's about all they sold. Now, what they have full buffet. They have, anything you want. They have pizza, they have hamburgers, they have hot dogs, they have, bratwurst. And
Yeah,
Milwaukee's known for its bratwurst up there.
right.
And they have, sushi. They have, well, even this hamburger joint down here in Brownsville that opened up.
Yeah.
What's the name of that place? The new one
Uh,
about a
which
year
one?
ago.
Uh, can't remember. There's so many of them now. It's not even funny.
There's so many of them now. They're at
Uh,
the stadium,
yeah,
and Bush Stadium in St. Louis, Bush Stadium 3, they've got a whole ballpark village, and it's nothing but concessions. And, you can get steak there, ribeyes, and
yeah.
anything you want, they've got there, you know.
Well, I was a little
And
surprised when I went to the movie theater recently because, man, they sell everything from beer to Pizza Hut's got a whole thing in there now at the movie theater, at least here in
now,
Brownsville.
we're in Brownsville.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. We recently went to the movies. We saw Oppenheimer
yeah,
and we saw Raiders of the Lost Ark and Mission Impossible. We go to the one in Harlingen,
yeah.
and the
Well,
one
I was
in
really
Harlingen.
pissed. I was really pissed because they barely showed Raiders of the Lost Ark or Indiana Jones or whatever it was, and I never got to see it. I never got to see it. They
Hmm,
had it for like one or two showings. How was Oppenheimer?
I liked it. It was a little bit long.
Yeah.
Okay, it was like 3 hours and 10 or 15 minutes.
Wow.
I think they could have cut some stuff off of it, but it was okay. Matter of fact, that's what I'm reading right now is for a book.
Yeah.
I'm reading. There's a book that the movie is based on called American Promet- Prometheus,
Okay.
and the book was written a few years ago, and that's what the basis of the movie is. And no, it's okay. I mean,
Yeah.
the movie was fine.
Yeah.
I think I would have liked to seen a little bit more of the atomic bomb.
Right.
You know, I mean, they told about it and all that kind of stuff. But if you really want to get into a story about how they developed the atomic bomb, there's a movie that was made about 20 years ago,
Uh
20,
huh.
25 years ago, and John Cusack was in it. It was called Fat Man and Little Boy,
Right. Yep. Those were the
and
names of the
that
two
really
bombs.
dives, yeah, yeah, that really dives into it big time, you
Wow.
know. But no, I enjoyed the movie. It was just a little long, that's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you knew it was going to be.
Yeah.
But Indiana Jones was old, was a little long too. But I don't mind Indy Jones. I've always been a fan of Indy.
Yeah. I
Okay,
have too. I have too. Yeah. I was out on the island yesterday trying to take a little break and ran into this little bookstore that my daughter wanted to go to. It's called Karma Coffees and Books, and one of the
wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Let's say that again. A bookstore in South Texas.
yeah, believe it or not, down
Wow,
at the island.
I didn't know there was such a thing.
Oh yeah, it's really a nice little bookstore. If you get a chance when you're down at the
And
island,
and where is this at?
it's right in front on Gulf Boulevard. I can't really describe exactly where it's at, but it's called Karma Coffee and Books, and they've got a really, really nice coffee bar. I was really impressed with it. And what I ran into, what I ran into was 1984 by Orson Welles. First of all, I've never read the book 1984. Okay, I've never read it. The only reason why I'm familiar with it is because, as you know, one of the biggest Super Bowl commercials of all time was Apple's commercial where they replicated 1984 against Big Bad Big Blue IBM. Remember that commercial?
I remember that. Yep, they introduced a Macintosh.
That's right. That's when they introduced the Macintosh for the very first time to the
Now,
world in 1980.
is this in Port Isabel?
Yes. No, no. It's on the island. It's right
And
next to an ice cream shop. That's and it's and the ice cream shop is right next to the meatball cafe.
Meatball Cafe. Okay, next time we go to the island, that's what we'll stop into because she's always wanting. Let's go to the island,
Yeah.
and I go, I've been there,
Now
but
let me tell you, I was impressed with the meatball cafe. I don't know if you've been there or not.
I haven't been there.
Well, it's an Italian place. There's about two Italian restaurants down at the island. And I
Do they
know
sell new books in there, or is it used bookstore, or
new
what is it?
and used books.
Okay, and
Yeah.
they have coffee in there too, huh?
They've got a
Okay,
really nice coffee bar. They've got all kinds of souvenirs and knickknacks. I mean, it is really nice. I was very impressed with it. I wish we had something like that in Brownsville. You know, I know there's
yeah,
a
you
kid
would think
downtown.
you would. I don't think Harlingen or San Benito's got it either
No, the only nearest bookstore that we have is the Barnes and Noble in
in
McAllen.
McAllen,
And you know,
and
they
I'm
Barnes and
surprised that's
Noble,
still open.
well, yeah, because you know Barnes and Noble's been dwindling in all kinds of financial problems for years across the nation. So it's
Hmm.
very surprising, but it was really nice. I would,
Well,
make a
we're going to
stop
check
there.
that out. We're
Yeah,
definitely going to check it out someday. During the
yeah,
week.
yeah,
We could. That's a cheap date. You
yeah.
know,
Cheap date.
for us.
And I'm telling you, even the Meatball Cafe, we, my wife and I, we had a pizza. Pizza was like $15. It was great. It was really tasty.
Is it
Didn't.
is it better than the pizza across the street? There's a
Oh
pizza
yeah,
place.
the joint pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely is. It's more authentic. The one across the street is sometimes very greasy. It's you get
Hmm.
all kinds of stuff on your hands, but nah, not this place. it was pretty good. I've got to admit that it was very surprising.
Well,
So
good.
yeah,
That's good. I've checked it. We'll have to check that out.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's what that's what the island needs. I just can't believe there's no bookstores in Brownsville.
yeah, I
It
know.
just it just amazes me.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know why these. Well, I guess everybody gets them through Amazon or something.
I know.
But
Yeah.
still, but just to hang out. And the kids, they hang out at Starbucks, but I never thought the Starbucks coffee was that good. It has an aftertaste. Their
Well, not
coffee
only
does,
that,
I
it's a
think,
little strong for me. It's a little
and it's
too
a little
strong.
expensive too.
Yeah, no doubt about
You
that.
know, and every time they open up a coffee shop in Brownsville, it lasts a couple months and then it goes under.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know,
All
so
righty. All righty, Doug. Well, we've wrapped up another episode for the week. And as you know, we've got some new episodes coming up. Well, tonight we've got a SpaceX launch that we're covering. That's another Starlink launch. And then this Thursday, we've got our second episode of Live 270. I don't know if you got to catch the episode with the UAPs and UFOs last week, but we had that last week. That went well. But
now
this week,
what's is it on your channel, Danny?
yes, you can go to Brownsville Tech Live and you can pick it up there along with your stuff.
Is that the one with the lone conservative from San Antonio?
Yes, yes. He's an Air Force guy. But no, no, no. He's an Army guy, by the way. Army
A
guy, buddy.
lone ranger, a
Yeah,
conservative in San Antonio. Did you tell him I say that?
yeah. But this week, the topic is going to be Operation Lone Star. That's the Governor Greg Abbott's immigration
Oh,
policies.
yeah.
So we're going to get
Him and
to
him and his orange buoys, huh?
especially the orange buoys. So we're going to
Yeah.
be talking about that, looking at the effectivity of all that, and what happens next. So that'll be a fun episode.
Too bad you
So
can't have the Castro brothers on there. And we're not talking about Fidel and his brother.
Fidel and
We're talking
Raul.
about the twins. Yeah, the
Yeah.
twins up there.
No. Well, maybe one day. And I'm hoping to soon here bring on our first Republican candidate for District 34 for Congress. So I've put out a
District
couple
what?
of
34.
District 34. Yeah.
And who is that? Is that
Well, the incumbent
Sonora?
is Vicente Gonzalez, but I've made some invitations first to a few Republicans. I actually got one to
Mm-hmm.
confirm today. Hopefully, we can settle on an exact date, but that's hopefully coming up soon. So,
And that guest was she a congressman before for a short term?
no, 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 no. I haven't heard from her yet. This is a guy.
Okay. Yeah, she announced her candidacy. I was just curious.
Yeah, no, 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 not yet. I'm working on that
I
one.
don't think you're I don't think you're big enough for her. She's always on Fox, okay?
Yeah, I know. I know. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but you never know. You never know, right? So, all righty. I will talk to you later, Doug. Everybody, this was
Maybe you just should take out an invitation to some of these presidential candidates, like maybe Vivek. How do you pronounce his last name? What's a Swami?
see a Republican.
Republican.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah, he's under the age of 50. Believe it or not,
okay.
a candidate is running underneath the age of 50,
Wow.
which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vivek's what's a Swami?
Yeah.
He's I think his heritage is he's Pakistan. His father and mother's from Pakistan.
Oh
He's born
wow.
in the States.
Wow.
Or
He's
you can always
competing,
get Chris
right?
Christie, huh?
Well, one thing's for sure. The third episode of Live 270, we're going to be looking at the Republican candidates, primarily because the first Republican debate is scheduled for August 23rd this month.
So maybe instead of you know knocking poor old Joe for being in his basement, it could be knocking Trump for being in jail, huh? Wouldn't that be interesting? Having a one-on-one conversation with Trump in jail, right?
Hey,
Nah,
that
he's
would
not
be. Hey,
going
I'll
anywhere.
I'll take Trump any day.
You imagine a Secret Service agent being in jail with him?
Oh my gosh, that's scary. Yeah,
That's scary.
yeah. Well, he
Him
doesn't
and
want to.
Hunter.
Yeah, well, he doesn't want to get Epstein. That's for sure.
Yeah, and one of your topics ought to be the Hunter Biden deal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That could be a good topic too.
yeah, yeah. All righty, Doug. Everybody, that's it for episode 8. We'll be back next week with episode 9 as we continue coverage of the MLB and some of the teams that are vying for their top spots. So we'll see everybody next week, and stay tuned for the launch tonight as well as some of the later programming we've got scheduled for this week. Doug,
And we're going to have an app. We're going to have an Apple event here in about a month from now.
that's right. We've got an Apple event coming, so we need to prepare for that because you're the top star when it comes to Apple.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All
But
righty.
the 17th of September.
Okay. I'll have to start doing some research and getting stuff ready for that because it's been a while since we've had a tech show. So, all righty, Doug. Well, you have a great time at the Green Monster. I'm going to try to do the same. Everybody, we'll see you next week. Doug, have a great Sunday, or what's left of it.
Okay, Danny. See you next
Alrighty.
week. Bye bye.
Bye bye.